Well, welcome to another Monash Matters, everybody. I'm here with Josh Hawkes today. Josh is a former firefighter who was removed from his position because of the mandates that were imposed on firemen. Josh has a story to tell, and I'd like him to tell that story today. Josh Hawkes, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Russell. Great to be with you again.
Josh, where are you at today? You wrote to me in 23. I contacted you after that. You came with some of your colleagues to Canberra. We spoke then, and we thought with that publicity received then that you would sort things out very quickly and be back to work. Are you back at work?
Short answer is no. Long answer is that lots has happened in 2023, Russell, and unfortunately, in 2024 January, Fire Rescue Victoria is the last agency enforcing mandates in Australia. The fire agencies
so every other agency, including all our frontline workers, every other agency except Victoria no longer requires mandates. Is that right?
Healthcare is a different situation in New South Wales, South Australia and Victoria, but yeah, all the other fire agencies around the country have dropped it, other than Fire Rescue Victoria. Yeah.
Josh, have they reinstated their members?
Everyone else is reinstated. We had a great victory of sorts. We contend that we had a helping hand in getting New South Wales were the last. There were two agencies left. Fire Rescue New South Wales returned their career firefighters back around November time, and we've just seen the last of their career staff returned through their refresher program. So they're back on shift now, and by all reports, they're being welcomed back with open arms, other than a few in the minority that would like to contend that the unvaccinated are somehow a threat to them, a threat to those that complied. But by all reports, mostly we've had a great feedback by our guys and girls going back to shift.
Josh, you might like to mention your story as to why you did not get vaccinated. What was the background to that?
Watershed moment for me was hearing Greg Hunt, the former health minister, say that this was the world's largest trial, and there was going to be lots of data. But what's the message for the public? Safe and effective, all the rest of it. I just knew from a visceral feeling that I had watching that this was bad news, and what ensued thereafter was proof of how my decision making at that moment, hearing Greg Hunt say that, pardon me, that was pivotal. So I then chose to stand my ground. Located several other of my colleagues over the journey. It took some time. Obviously, the mandate didn't actually roll through until October of 2021 for our career firefighters in Victoria. We seemed to find each other over the next few months, and then in November of 2021, and end of November 2021, we formed the Australian Firefighters Alliance, and that was a cohort of firefighters across the country in different states who decided that was the stand that we were going to take, and we were going to represent firefighters' rights and autonomy after that.
Was there any family history around your health as well?
Yes, there was. I lost my mum in July of 2021 during the COVID madness, with hospitals locked down. She had a cardiomyopathy, congenital cardiomyopathy. It took her brother when he was 38 as well. I was 37 at the time of the mandates rolling through. So I've had several echocardiograms over the time, numerous assessments, and found to be healthy. And there's always that risk that something may present down the track. But I knew that these interventions were not helpful to those who had any kind of predisposition to a cardiac condition. So I erred on the side of caution. Spoke to many doctors actually, and that was a really hard time. Just before the mandates rolled through, I lost my mum to cardiomyopathy, and that process of going through grief, having to visit the hospital, Alfred Hospital in Melbourne, in lockdown conditions, it really, I think, steeled my resolve, Russell, to stand my ground and do what was right for not only myself, but the other fireys who had chosen that path as well.
Now, I don't know where you get your information from, but you know there are 900 Victorian police officers on sick leave at the moment.
Well, my information comes from a couple of sources, but I mean, you don't have to look very far, because on the sides of the police vehicles in Victoria at the moment, you've got they're in a EBA dispute, and they've got their the chalk markings that you might recognise from the ambulance vehicles when there's something happening industrial with them. Victoria Police were already behind the 8 ball with some 800, a shortage of around about 800 recruits from their target. They've now got an extra 900 on top of that, officers who are off work, and I am told that a vast majority of those are on sick leave. I have several personal contacts who are in the police force, and morale is non-existent at the moment. And yes, there are shortages due to illnesses, several types of illnesses. Nothing that you would definitively say is a majority. But I think we're quite aware now, aren't we, that these interventions have had quite a range of resulting factors health-wise that have prevented people from being at work. And this is not unlike the fire service. There's a lot of absenteeism at the moment due to a myriad of health problems. And are we in? Did we just come out of a pandemic, or are we in a pandemic now? That's the question that you have to ask, because excess deaths, as you know, are at an all-time high, and serious questions need to be asked. And we are asking that in as much as we can as the Australian Firefighters Alliance of the fire services. Why they're not looking at this?
What about your personal situation now, Josh? Where are you at, and where are you headed?
Yeah, it's a good question. I spent Christmas and New Year period contemplating where to next. Took some time off from actually the front line, writing emails, collecting information. Luckily, I've got a couple of other people behind me, or not really behind me, but on my wings, basically, to sort of step into that breach and keep things moving. Right now, I'm looking at possibly next week doing a little bit of other work. It's going to be, some menial work, but work nonetheless, and I'm happy to sort of receive that work. But the future in the fire brigade is uncertain. We are being prevented from returning in 2024. It's so nonsensical to be in this position now, where we're approaching 2 years after the last mandated shots, and somehow us taking 3 of these to catch up is going to make us a non-risk to the workforce. That doesn't make sense. So I'm looking at other avenues to earn an income and help my family through this period. It's an uncertain time, but I'm going to do my best to just secure some other work for the time being, just in case they decide to terminate us. I mean, they have made threats toward us. Those of us who have unearthed what we have and started asking the questions that we have, we've received those threats on multiple occasions now. I've been the recipient of 4 separate communications that have alleged misconduct, or that I could be looked at for misconduct and then potentially dismissed. If that were to happen, I'd need a backup plan. So I'm making steps to ensure that I'm not left broadsided if that does happen.
How many firefighters are there in Victoria that are in the same position as you are, Josh?
It's a good question, Russell, but it's kind of a nuanced answer. I guess you'd say that we have roughly 30 AFA members, so we definitely know that they are non-compliant because that, by virtue of the fact that they've come to us and for assistance, and we've been working very hard to fight for those guys. But we're starting to see others that didn't have an idea that a group of stood down firefighters really existed. So every other week we get some more firefighters who have been at home struggling by themselves, have not had comms with anyone, and are just surprised by the fact that there is even a group that's advocating for the stood down cohort. What I can tell you a little bit more broadly than that is that there's up to 50 that are non-compliant. For one reason or another, they've not taken any of the shots to be compliant, or they've taken one or two, become sick, and have not complied with any further. Neil Mitchell actually fielded a phone call in November last year of a firefighter who he and his brother had taken 2 of the shots to become compliant and had serious adverse reactions and decided not to take a third on their doctor's advice. So we've got those sorts of people in there as well, I guess, who have not been with us from the outset, but have along the journey.
So you're telling me those 2 had taken 2 shots and were stood down because they wouldn't take the third?
Yes, and in some instances they've taken 1 and had a bad reaction and not taken the other 2. So and yet those people are still stood down. That's not including the guys and girls who are on work cover either, because there's a number of those as well. So the insurer has assessed them. They've gone through a absolute battery of tests to determine, and as you know, that insurance companies are not that keen to pay out in the first instance. They will go through everything they can to make sure that the injury is verified. It has been verified, so that we know for a fact that these shots have hurt people. There are instances where heart attacks have happened, temporarily associated, but correlation is not causation. We have to be careful with what we say, but we do know that guys and girls are on work cover as a result of the jabs. That is a fact.
But they haven't. That's not in writing anywhere.
Not publicly, no. But I have. I speak to these people all the time, so it is a fact. Yep.
Do they have to sign a non-disclosure agreement to get that payout?
I don't believe so, no.
Well, it'd be great if one of those contacted me, Josh. It'd be fantastic. Josh, I want to wish you all the best. Thank you for coming on today on the program. We will keep fighting along with you and others for justice for those who have stood against the mandates, or those that have been vaccine injured in any workplace anywhere. And I can't believe that your employer disregarded the advice of doctors that were looking after their own firemen. They have, I would have thought they had a duty of care. And they've obviously abrogated their responsibility to the duty of care for those that do the work for them, the people on the ground in the fire trucks. So thanks, Josh. I wish you all the best, you and your family, and thank you for the work that you've put in over such a long time. All the best.
Thanks, Russell. I'm sorry about the helicopter that's just flying by, but just as a final thought, it occurs to me now that with the agency and unions talking about mental health issues and how mental health injuries are just as serious as physical injuries, it really does occur to me, and it drives it home, that a lot of us have been completely left out in the dark. We've been threatened. You just can't make this stuff up. We've been threatened over and over. There's guys really suffering, and I've had chats with my colleagues that are having suicidal ideations. Now, in 2024, this is untenable with the evidence that we've provided the employer and the unions, for them to be gaslighting us now with, the assistance programs are, pardon me, out there to help, but they will never address it on face value. And yourself and the other senators in the upper house, they've been really helpful in letting the AFA and the firefighters across the country and other sectors know that they're not forgotten, even though their employers and their unions have forgotten them. So I thank you for your advocacy.
Thanks, Josh. All the best to you. Thanks for joining us, everybody.